This reminder of a Sufi allegory that gives us the possibility of making a summation, recognizing a place that we've arrived at. And it's that story about the great king who knew that he was coming to the end of his life. He had an only son who was named Attila. So the king called to him his trusted advisors and asked them, "How should I test my son to say his worthiness to take over the reign of this kingdom?" The first of his advisors said, "You must ask him to bring to you an apple from the tree of life." And the second advisor said, "You must ask him to bring to you the ring of true happiness." And the third said, "You must ask your son to bring to you the mirror of truth from the ends of the earth, from King Mendoza." So the king called his son Attila to him and said, "My son, you are to take over this kingdom, but first you must fulfill these tasks." And the king enumerated to him what it is that he must do. That night, Prince Attila lay down on his bed, tossing and turning from side to side. He'd never been outside his father's kingdom before, and he had these great tasks to perform. But as he was lying there, suddenly in the room a great light appeared, a form translucent, and it spoke to him, and it said, "I am your guide, and the tasks that you have been given are not as daunting as they would seem. Rise up in the morning and go forth, and I will guide you." And with that, the apparition handed to Attila a talisman on a silver chain and said, "Put this around your neck, and when you are in need, touch it 3 times, and your need will be fulfilled." So the next morning, wearing the talisman around his neck, Prince Attila got on his great stallion and rode off. Before long, he was at the far reaches of his father's kingdom. And he rode for what seemed like an endless age, through forests, glens, up mountains, down, until finally he found himself in front of a great gate. Alighting from his horse, he opened the gate and entered an orchard that was filled with apple trees as far as he could see. He rode amongst the trees, waiting. thus far, his guide, without words, had brought him directly to this orchard. So he waited, and there, before long, he came to a tree, and seeing a ripe and red fruit, his hand went up to pick it. It shone brightly in his hand, rosy red and ripe. So he carefully placed it in his robe. But just at that moment, a swarm of biting insects came and attacked him. He immediately touched his talisman 3 times, and they were gone. On his horse again, he rode off. What seemed again like no time and all time, because he got tired and thirsty and had to rest from time to time. But at a certain time, when he was tired and his horse needed a rest and a drink, he found himself at a stream. And as he was there partaking of the clear water, 3 maidens came down to wash their clothes. And he approached them and asked them, "Please, I and my horse are very tired. Is there a place that we can rest for the night?" And the maidens pointed to him the direction in which he should take to come to a farmhouse, where they said the farmer was very hospitable and would give him what he needed. So Attila, riding on, came to the farmhouse and was welcomed by the farmer and given hospitality. They spent an evening in discourse, amiable. But then, late in the evening, just about when they were about to retire, there was a knock on the door. The farmer said, "Who could be calling at this time of night?" And so, when the farmer answered the door, outside was an ancient hermit seeking a place to rest, hospitality, bent and obviously very, very old. He was welcomed in by the farmer also, and after being given a bowl of soup, was given a place to rest by the warmth of the stove. Prince Attila had been given a room, a small room off the main area. After Prince Attila had laid down to rest, just as he was falling to sleep, he heard the pain of groans and moans, obviously of pain. And he came out to find the old hermit in great distress, obviously in great pain. Prince Attila touched his talisman 3 times, and then, without a thought, he took the apple from the tree of life from his robe and put it to the mouth of the old hermit. The old hermit took a bite and another, until the whole apple was gone. And before the very eyes of Prince Attila, the old man was restored to great and perfect youth. The old man was very grateful and said, "I have something to repay you for the gift that you have given me." And he took from his pocket a ring, and he said, "This is the ring of true happiness. It is given to you in thanks and repayment for your gift." Now the ring was gold, and it had in that an opalescent stone that seemed to have a glow of its own. Prince Attila took the ring gratefully and put it away carefully in his robe. The next morning, the old farmer wanted Princess Attila to stay with him. The old man had already taken his leave, jauntily going down the path. But with great thanks, Prince Attila went on his way. Again, the journey was filled with adventures, but somehow it took him on a direct path. And very soon Prince Attila found himself at what appeared to him to be the end of the earth. But there in front of him, up a mountain, ethereal, but very clear at the same time, was a palace, a grand palace. In the mist it seemed to have a glow, and pointing his great stallion, he crossed the moat and arrived at the gates of this great edifice. He was challenged at the gates by the guards, who asked him what he wanted. And he told them, "I've come to see King Mendoza." Now, King Mendoza had the mirror of truth and had already seen Prince Attila's arrival. So a messenger was sent to the guards to let him in. So he was taken directly to the throne room of King Mendoza. But King Mendoza was sitting on his throne in a state of abject sorrow, his head bent down. And Prince Attila, seeing this, asked him. And King Mendoza says, "I have this palace filled with jewels. I have everything that a heart could desire, but I am not happy." With that, without a thought, Prince Attila took from his robe the ring of true happiness and said, "Place this on your finger." And as soon as King Mendoza placed the ring on his finger, he jumped up, tears flowing down his face. I've never felt this happiness, contentment, and bliss before. I will give you anything in return for this. And Prince Attila said, "May I have the mirror of truth?" "Yes," said King Mendoza, and handed Attila the mirror of truth. After pleasantries, Prince Attila set out to return to his home kingdom. Unlike the journey that he'd taken, it seemed to be just a trice, and he was back. But just as he was approaching the gates of his city, he saw smoke and flame arising. Could it be that his palace was on fire? But as he turned in the path, there in front of him was a great dragon, flames pouring out of its nostrils, the smoke rising, and in the dragon's mouth there was a maiden. Prince Attila touched his talisman 3 times and drew his sword, and in an instant had severed the head from the body of the dragon. In saving the maiden, who was extraordinarily beautiful, and told the prince that she was the daughter of a charcoal seller, but her beauty, he gave no thought to what her background was or where she was from. There was instant love, and he knew that he was to take her as his bride. But when they entered the city gates, everything was shut. No one was to be seen in the streets or on the roads of his city. And then he had a realization, not needing even to touch his talisman. He realized that the people of his city were afraid for their life because of the dragon. So he shouted at the top of his voice, "Do not be afraid. I have killed the dragon." And everyone came out of their houses, lifted Prince Attila joyfully on their shoulders to carry him back to his father's palace. The beautiful maiden had got lost in the crowd, but he sought her out, taking her with him in to greet his father. When he came face to face with his father asked him, "Well, have you fulfilled the tasks? Have you brought me the apple from the tree of life, the ring of true happiness, and the mirror of truth?" And Prince Attila told his father the whole story. And then he told his father that he was going to wed this beautiful maiden. And his father was rejoicing, and he did make a response to his son, Prince Attila. "Yes, I asked you to bring the apple of life, the ring of true happiness, and the mirror of truth, but you have brought a gift that is far, far greater." To make a summation, to recognize the place we're at, perhaps we can ponder on these several questions. What, when we look back on our path, our spiritual journey, does the apple of life represent? Why does it come first in his quest? The apple of life, what does it represent? And then the ring of true happiness that has a stone that glows perpetually. But the apple is given away. The ring is given away. And then the mirror of truth. What is this mirror of truth? And lastly, what is the talisman? Because in the end of the story, the talisman disappears, no longer needed, because we know the end of the story. Prince Attila takes over the kingdom. He marries his beautiful maiden, and they reign with prosperity and graciousness. Our story, and a summation to allow us to recognize place. Perhaps we can ponder on what these have represented for us on our path. So that we can recognize where we are. No talisman needed. What do they represent? Looking back on your journey, the apple of life, the ring of true happiness, the mirror of truth, and that which was the guiding light from the beginning of our spiritual journey to here, the talisman. We can ponder on this.